US President Donald Trump sides with Vladimir Putin and backs Putin's demand for a capitulation of Ukraine. Trump urges President Zelensky to withdraw his troops from the front lines in Donbas. Meanwhile, European allies are conducting last-minute efforts to change Trump's mind. Why did Trump support Putin's war aims in Ukraine, and could European allies change President Trump's mind? According to Bloomberg, Trump told Zelensky and European leaders in a phone call following his summit with Russia that Putin wants Ukraine to cede control of the entire Donbas region in Ukraine's east. This move could give Russia a substantial advantage on the ground. In exchange for this concession, Russia would hold its offensives in the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions and would freeze the front lines. European officials are concerned that Trump would now pressure Zelensky to make territorial concessions to reach a deal. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said, quote, "Russia has no intention of ending this war anytime soon. Putin continues to drag out negotiations and left summit without making any commitments to end this horrible war." Meanwhile, Reuters has published another Putin's demands for an end of the war in Ukraine. Russia would be ready to give up small occupied territories of Ukraine in exchange to Ukraine giving up the whole Donbas. Putin would not impose a ceasefire until a comprehensive deal was reached. Under the deal proposed by Kremlin, Kyiv would withdraw its troops from the Donetsk and Luhansk regions in exchange for Russia's commitment to freeze the front lines in Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. The sources also said that Russia was ready to return small areas of Ukrainian land that it occupied in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. Putin also wanted at least official recognition of Russia's sovereignty over Crimea, which Moscow illegally annexed in 2014. Putin also wants at least some sanctions to be lifted. Ukraine would also be barred from joining NATO. However, Putin seems to be willing to provide Ukraine with some kind of security guarantees. Russia would also demand official status for the Russian language in certain regions of Ukraine or in whole of Ukraine, as well as the right of the Russia's Orthodox Church to operate in Ukraine. Also, Trump supported Putin's position on a ceasefire. Trump no longer supports a ceasefire, according to Axios. Trump told Zelensky and NATO leaders that Putin doesn't want a ceasefire and he prefers a comprehensive deal to end the war. Trump said on the call that he thinks a fast peace deal is better than a ceasefire. Trump also told Zelensky that Putin had told him that Russia was making significant progress on the ground, and he probably could capture the entire Donetsk region if he wanted to do so. According to the source, Zelensky told Trump that Putin was misrepresenting the situation on the front lines. During the call, Steve Witkoff briefed Zelensky and NATO leaders on how Putin sees the issue of territory and what he's willing to give up in return. According to the Washington Post columnist Max Boot, Alaska was not a disaster, but it was a US defeat. Quote, Putin's triumph was evident from the very start of the gathering and joint base Elmendorf Richardson, where US troops rolled out the red carpet for a dictator indicted as a war criminal by the International Criminal Court. Boot reminded that Trump had threatened Putin with severe consequences if he did not stop his war, but in a post-summit interview with Fox News, Trump said that he would not impose any new sanctions against Russia because the meeting went very well. Trump also revealed on social media that he had dropped his demand for a ceasefire and had agreed with Putin to go strikes to negotiating a peace deal. Trump also took the pressure off Putin to stop his war. According to Max Boot, given Trump's incoherent approach to the war in Ukraine, it is too soon to despair. Trump hinted to European leaders that he would be willing to extend a US security guarantee to Ukraine as a part of a peace settlement. If true, that would be a significant win for Ukraine. Quote, Trump is often influenced by the last person he talked to, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is coming to Washington, D.C. today to meet US President. Meanwhile, US President Trump is increasing his pressure on President Zelensky to give up land to Russia. US President Trump said before meeting with Ukrainian counterpart Zelensky that he could almost instantly end the war with Russia if he wanted to. Trump also supported the idea of giving up Crimea and the whole Donbas to Russia. However, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the U.S. would not pressure Ukraine to give up its territories to Russia as a part of a peace agreement. Rubio said that despite Putin's demands, quote, if Ukrainians are not ready to give it up, no one is forcing Ukraine to give it up. Also, French President Emmanuel Macron said that Russia does not want peace, but instead wants Ukrainian capitulation. Quote, we want peace, a strong, lasting peace, which will be preceded by the return of prisoners, innocent people, and which will respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. He said that Russia does not want a real peace, but wants capitulation of Ukraine. He stressed that if the allies are weak in front of Russia, they will prepare for future conflicts. He expressed his belief that President Trump wants peace and called for not recognizing the right of the strong, so as not to create a new international order that would not longer be based on law. Macron also urged the West not to be weak with Russia at the current negotiations.
If we are weak today with Russia, we will be preparing the conflicts of tomorrow, and they will affect the Ukrainians. And let's not be mistaken, they can also affect us at a time when our country continues to be regularly attacked in terms of cyber, information, or in contested spaces from maritime to space. So no weakness. Ultimately, what we are saying is that we want peace. Everyone who will be there tomorrow in Washington has been on the side of peace from day one. But we want a robust peace, a peace that in no way can be a capitulation, a peace that in no way can be at the expense of the security of Europeans. How do we deploy what are called reassurance forces, that is, a few thousand men on the ground in Ukraine, in the peace zone, to ensure there is a presence of some allies who say our destinies are linked? This is something we have experienced in the past. These forces are not intended to hold a front line or to be engaged in an active conflict, but to demonstrate solidarity from a strategic point of view. That is the second pillar. So this is what we need to discuss with the Americans. Who is ready to do what?
Meanwhile, Bloomberg reports that Volodymyr Zelensky faces difficult negotiations with President Trump. Zelensky's main objectives ahead of the meeting are learning more about Putin's demands, urging a trilateral meeting, and convincing Trump to impose tougher stance and tougher sanctions against Russia. However, US President supported Putin's demands that Ukraine give up large areas of land in the east of the country. There are signs that US is prepared to back such type of deal. Following his meeting with Putin, Trump told European allies that the US could contribute to any security guarantees, and Putin was prepared to accept that. But it remains unclear what kind of security guarantee President Trump is prepared to give to Ukraine and what the Kremlin leader is willing to accept. Quote, we got an agreement that the US and other allies could effectively offer Article 5-like language to Ukraine. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, said in an interview with CNN, referring to NATO provisions that says that if one ally is attacked, it is considered an attack on all members. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and glory to Ukraine.